Hello everyone, this is Alberto, welcome to my new video. So does any of you ever try to get the best performance out of their GPUs and wondered how the liquid-cooled ones perform so better? Well, this is because clearly with a liquid-cooled GPU, the temperature will stay lower, so all the components will stay fresh and perform at a higher level. Especially if you're mining, you don't want to have that annoying noise of the fans of a GPU running the whole night, the whole day. They're just disturbing your peaceful place. So this is a solution that is coming in handy for you. But not all of the GPUs can be made water-cooled using the online available systems such as water blocks that are designed specifically. Sometimes we've got an older version which we still want to make a better system, so we want to improve it, but we don't have the hardware available. So today I'm going to show you how to turn a standard GPU which doesn't have the option to get a specific system for water cooling by using the AlphaCool water block that can be mounted on most of the commercial GPUs. So let's not lose any more time and let's get going. This is a universal for every graphic card, or almost everyone, so as a general device that's good for liquid cooling any non-standard graphic card. First step will be to remove the existing air cooling system by removing all the bolts. So we are going to remove 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the screws that are holding the heat exchanger with the heat pipes and the fans onto a graphic card. So now we need to disconnect the power supply from the fans. So just pull this white connector and we can simply carefully remove the air cooler. I'm going to put it to the side for now. Great, so now we have all this nice and neat surface, and the first thing I'm going to do is take our X-Cool heat exchanger, remove the manufacturing protection used to avoid any scratches on the surface to keep it all nice and neat. What we're going to do is use these bolts to go through graphic card, and they will be coming out as studs from here. And then we're going to be installing the heat exchanger on top of those, ensuring that the perfect contact between the heat exchanger and the GPU is maintained using the pressure of the springs. So for this installation, I'm going to use the plastic washer. So I'm sure there is no direct contact between the metal part and the graphic card component. Just pay extra attention when doing this kind of operations because the graphic card is extremely delicate. So now that we have the 4 bolts in place, we're going to make sure that this is in the right position and seats here nicely. There we go. Now I'm just going to pre-mount the heat exchanger, just because I want to make some checks. This is not definitive mount because, as you can see, I didn't put any thermal paste on it just yet. So it's just to make sure that everything is sitting in position as I'm expecting it to be. Graphic cards is mounted like this into the PC casing. So I just need to make sure that the fittings I have in here will not interfere with any of the components. And I will just temporarily pre-mount these. Great, so number one. So the pipe will be coming out this way, just like that. So the water will be coming from the CPU into the heat exchanger and then coming out and going back into the reservoir and into the radiator for cooling purposes. Great, so now we have a nice mounted system, pre-mounted system. And I'm just going to make sure that all the passive components work as expected and there is enough room around the GPU for all of them. We also have a fan, which is going to be sitting here. I have some extension rounds on this side, so I'm just going to bolt this and fix it on 2 screws. So just on this side is going to be hanging a little bit, but the fan is pretty lightweight, so for sure there isn't going to be any issue. Okay, so I'm just double checking that all the passive components fit. I understand it's not great as it should be with the actual contact pads for used in the bespoke water cooling systems, but as we were saying, this is not a bespoke one, it's not specific made. This is a workaround if you want to water cool your GPU and you don't have any specific systems already provided by manufacturers. So, so we need to try and make the best out of what we have. So these are not even cool on the original layout, but I'm going to be adding a couple of passive coolers for extra safety and extra cooling again. So I'm just cleaning the surface where the thermal pad is going to be installed, again just to ensure that there is perfect contact between heat exchanger and thermal components. Just make sure you don't touch sticky side with your fingers, otherwise you're going to be ruining the stickiness and contact. As you can see, there is a small gap between the condensers and the power supplies, so I will need to fill this gap with conductive tape. So these are 2 mils conductive tape strips, which go perfectly to the job, fill in the gap, as you can see, so there will be perfect contact. I will just need to cut it down a little bit here to be able to move it like this. Right, so now let's move on onto the other components. Right, so now it's time to add the cooling fan, and this will be mounted here, just like that, sitting on top, blowing this side, so the air enters on this side and then comes out and spreads onto the board of the GPU. Again, as there is no bespoke system, I've just decided to use these extenders. So they are double threaded on both sides. You can find these on Amazon. The whole kit is like $9.99, something like that, so it's pretty cheap. So I'm using the longest ones just because I want to be sure that there is enough room in between the fan and the passive components. I don't want any clash. Unfortunately, the MSI Armor 8GB is not coming with 3 same distance mounting holes, so it's either these two, or these two. They're different sizes, smaller, medium and bigger, for different sizes of fans. So that's the one perfect for 120mm. And again, even though it's not great having something hanging, This was definitely worse in terms of weight and weight distribution, because it was just mounted in here and then all hanging on one side. There we go, job done. So now the fan is, close to the components but not touching. And even though if it's hanging, if you put it this way, it's not really doing anything bad in terms of movement, so that would be perfectly fine. I'm using some Arctic Cooling MX2 thermal paste, just a tiny bit on here. Great, and this is it, I've done. Now I'm going to be installing the graphic card onto the motherboard into the casing, and we're going to get on going with the connections on the piping and the fan. Welcome back to the transformation of the MSI Radeon 8GB from air-cooled to liquid-cooled. We've installed the heat exchanger onto the board, and we've added a fan with some passive components, even though we cover this into the previous part of the video. I've already emptied all the water loop in my PC, and now I'm ready to fit the graphics card onto the motherboard. So now the graphic card is installed and secured onto the motherboard. I've already cut to length the pipes, so I'm just going to go installing those onto the heat and the water block.